everything everything goes back to dust. Everything dissolves back into nothing. This is where the road ends. This is a full stop. This is where the path completely dissolves. This is where seeking ceases. This is really the end. It was never really a path that began. All of that hard seeking, all of that searching, all of that wishing, hoping, desperately grabbing onto a future, an idea, a concept, a belief that the future will be better. All of that grasping onto a dream, within a dream, within a dream. All of that turns to dust. It returns to ashes. It dissolves into nothing. No one began a journey. The sense of me and their journey never really happened. Nothing is really happening. This is the total end and beginning simultaneously, all at once. There is no separation, there's no division, there's no duality, there's no opposites. Everything collapses. All there is just pure, utter, complete, boundless aliveness, energy, unconditional love. There's nowhere better to get to. There is no heaven. Heaven is a really hopeful idea for the sense of me, for the person. Within the dream, it can create a beautiful story. It can be so convincing. It can seem so real. It can help the person seemingly get through what we would call a difficult time, get through immense suffering. How amazing is that? But it doesn't really exist. In the story, it can feel very real. But nothing is really happening. No one is getting anywhere. There's nowhere to get to. This is an absolute complete stop. And yet apparent movement still continues. How is that possible? That makes no sense. This is not understandable. This is not something you can figure out. This is the end of common sense, of being logical. This is totally nonsensical. These words are totally empty. They mean nothing. Everything appears real, appears solid, appears as if it really exists. But it's simultaneously nothing. In the story, it can be described and it can feel or be perceived as the whole story. The whole of everything just dissolves and goes back to dust. But that too is part of the story. Because nothing ever really existed. Or returning back to dust is just the apparent end of the story. But it's part of the story. Everything was already dust, was already nothing, was already completely empty, simultaneously. It was vibrantly alive. It was full on, immediate, pure love. The whole time. All along. It was always the case. There was never a person moving through time on a path, getting closer, moving further away, becoming more awake, becoming more aware. Becoming more present. There are no opposites. There are no opposites. The me is the dream, is the story, creates the concepts, the beliefs, the ideas, the happenings, the good and bad, the better, worse. It creates everything. Or it gives power to everything. It gives immense meaning to everything. Pretty much automatically. And it can seesaw. It can believe that it's trapped. It's really trapped. And then it can believe that it's free. It feels so free. It can take this message and feel like it's liberated. The me can identify with no self. The me can believe that it doesn't exist. And sometimes it doesn't even know that it's doing that. Because it doesn't really know what it is. It doesn't really know what itself is. Because it is it. And no one can really know what it is. We can describe it as this energetic contraction, apparently all over the body. The body that's also nothing, that's also emptiness. I describe all of these characteristics and these preferences and um, the apparent addictions that the body might have, even without the me sense, and the anxiety and sadness and heartbreak and the loneliness and joy and bliss and every freaking emotion. Doesn't matter what it is, it still can arise. Anything can arise. The only, I don't know about the only, but the main difference is that there's this energetic sense that we refer to as the me sense, that owns and claims all of that, all of the preferences, all of the traits, all of the characteristics, all of the preferences, all of the quirks and nuances, and then it can create this kind of neuroses, like wanting to be a certain way or wanting to be perceived a certain way. It can be very self-obsessed, and that is pretty normal, I would say, unless the me sense has done a lot of work on itself and improved itself and became a healthier me. But that's just an idea. It's also like there is no healthy and unhealthy. And this will be misinterpreted by the me and think that it can just eat shit and never exercise, not take care of the body even though it's in pain. That's not what's being said. This is not talking to the me that creates the healthy or not healthy. This is saying that there just is no duality whatsoever. There are no opposites. There's no better or worse. It's just full on what is for no one. Even the sense of me is what is. This cannot be applied. This is not a how-to. This is not telling you what to do. This is not telling you how to live. This is telling you that there is only life, just life, pure life, empty life, empty full-on, vibrant aliveness. You're looking at nothing, and nothing is looking. The movement to improve, to become healthier, is just what's happening. It's just what's arising. It's also nothing. There's nothing really happening. It appears that way. This is really impossible to describe. The apparent body, with or without the me sense, just fluctuates like crazy. So there's no way to really describe it or to say that this is how it is. There's no saying. Any description that's given of the character will always change. How can it not? So let's say the apparent me sense drops. It's seen that it was never there in the first place. It was totally illusory, and yet it seems so real. And it created its whole world and its whole universe. And then when it's apparently gone, it's seen to have never really existed. Then 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 what can seem to unfold, it's not really unfolding, but for the sake of trying to describe, what can seem to unfold is so drastically different for every body, apparent body. So it can look really ugly for a while. That's not necessarily what happened here, but yeah, it can look really, really messy, and it can be so disorienting for no one. It can be so disturbing. It can be so painful. There can be still immense suffering for no one. It can be so confusing. It can be worrisome for no one. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the me sense is still there. That can produce a lot of doubt, perhaps. Like, I wouldn't be this worried, or I wouldn't be in this much pain and suffering if there's a seeing that there's just liberation, that there's only freedom. And no one gets free. No one becomes enlightened. No one wakes up. There is only full on awakeness, aliveness, enlightenment. Enlightenment is such a misunderstood word. It has this like flavor of prestige. You know, that's like the ultimate goal. That's like, and it's ironic because that goal for the intense spiritual seeker who is hoping for that, working toward that, doing all of these practices for that, will never get it. How it can be described now, and this might change, is that the spiritual practices and, you know, the lineages and following a teacher and being so devoted and loving your guru, being so dedicated, so devoted that this path is more important than life itself, the person's life. Um, the irony is that there can be so much projection and hoping and dreaming of a future event, of a future happening. There is no future. No one gets anywhere. No one is going anywhere. There is no path. So it can apparently appear that way. The me sense is creating that dream. It is the dream. It is the journey. And within the dream, it can feel as if there's less suffering. There's less, there's working on trauma. There's healing. There's loving oneself more. There's raising one's consciousness. There's spreading love. There's being more in the moment and in the present. Less getting lost in the past and future, or, you know, the stream of the mind, or thoughts, or getting lost in thoughts. All of that can apparently appear. It's so convincing. It feels as if it's working. And the thing is, that's what was apparently experienced here. When it seemed like the me sense was here, it really felt like it was improving and it was getting more peaceful and it was integrating its trauma and it was becoming a more loving person. And this was the way, this was the right way, this was the right path, this was it. That's how it felt. This is not saying to stop doing. This is not saying, I know what's right. This is a description of what is seen when the me sense apparently dissolves. It's saying that all of that was in the dream. All of that was this sense of a me moving through time, healing, growing, improving. And this is saying that apparently all of these seeming happenings of the conditioning playing out, the preferences within the body, the interests, like certain things seem to apparently continue, but it's not. Nothing is happening. Because there's no one here owning and claiming anything. It's just full on immediate what's happening. No one is experiencing anything. Nothing is happening to anyone. No one is going on a journey and improving and learning. But we can say apparently that seems to be unfolding, but nothing is happening. And that was already the case. Before the apparent me sense fell away, went back to dust. Nothing goes back to dust. It's just a nice way of saying that that's the end of the story. All of the worry, all of the anxiety, it's just this. Nothing is excluded. This is total boundless energy. All of it is this. Nothing is outside of this. Nothing is separate from this. The me sense is this. The wanting to get rid of the me sense is this. The wanting to run away and hide is this. The wanting to get this is this. There's no way to escape this, and this is not an escape. There's nowhere to go, yet movement still continues, apparently. Nothing can be done, and no one can stop doing something in order for this to already be the case. It's just this. This is it. There's only this. And there has only ever been this.